Data centers like Tulip, data centers like Enron, they have vanished out of thin air
Yep.
from India.
There could be a bubble, but what I've been reading about is this is not like a dot com or a tulip like in 1600s thing. There is backup. There is a data here that there is a data saying we have 1.45 billion people, and we are using data. We need the data centers anyway.
Good evening. India has officially entered the global data race, not quietly, but at full throttle. India's data center capacity will rise from 1.2 gigawatts in 2025 to 9 gigawatts by 2032, a massive leap driven by AI adoption, 5G rollout, and a national push toward digital sovereignty. That's actually almost a 7.5 times jump. And behind the number lies a major shift. India clearly wants to become the world's data nation. We actually did an in-depth analysis in our latest Debunked episode where myself and Supreet made sure that we could give you the best roadmap and the information that we could manage. If you haven't seen it, please make sure to check it out. Back to India. Well, India today generates 20% of the world's data, yet holds only 3% of global data center capacity. That mismatch is being corrected, and that too aggressively. Global giants like AWS, Google, Microsoft, Meta, and domestic powerhouses like Reliance are pouring billions into India's compute stack. Even luxury real estate developers are entering the data center rush. Mumbai continues to dominate, accounting for over 50% of capacity, but new hubs are rising fast, including Hyderabad, Pune, Ahmedabad, Vizag, Bengaluru, all actually vying to become India's next digital nerve center. Think of India's digital economy as well a mega city that never sleeps. Data centers are the power plants keeping its lights on. Every GPT prompt, every UPI transaction, every OTT binge watch, every AI agent in a factory line all rely on this invisible infrastructure humming around the clock. As data explodes, so does the need for compute. Quite logical. AI will triple India's data consumption by 2030, and that means only one thing: more servers, more cooling, more fiber, more power. And at the heart of this revolution, AI again. The boom comes with cost, water, and energy. And this is where actually the story becomes complicated. India has 18% of the world's population, but only 4% of its water resources. Data centers require massive cooling, as we all know, and India's consumption is projected to jump from 150 billion liters in 2025 to 358 billion liters by 2030. Wow, that's a whopping number. Cities are already actually under stress. Mumbai, Hyderabad, Chennai, Bengaluru will feel the pressure first. Advocacy groups in Andhra Pradesh have already raised alarms over Google's $15 billion data center and its impact on local water tables. Then we actually come to the energy factor, which is India's power consumption from data centers will double. So from 0.5 to 1% and from 1 to 2% of national demand. Without policy nudges toward renewables, compute could deepen, dependence on coal-heavy grids. The question is not just actually how fast can we build, it's actually how sustainably, which is more important and more incisive. So India is actually acting on multiple fronts: policy, infrastructure, talent, innovation. So the infrastructure status for data centers above is this: 5 megawatt faster approvals, state incentives, which is Maharashtra, Telangana, Tamil Nadu. NIC-owned national data centers powering e-governance, renewable PPAs, edge data centers for AI plus IoT, national fiber corridor vision. A push for undersea cable landing stations, and the biggest unlock: which is this: India's skilled workforce in cloud, networking, cybersecurity, and AI. Data centers will actually expand into tier 2 and tier 3 cities with cooler climates. Shimla, Dehradun, Chandigarh, Coimbatore, lower cooling cost, quite obvious. Better land availability, absolutely. And more sustainable growth. So the green innovations are also coming fast as they need to. Liquid cooling, treated water, wastewater cooling, zero water cooling technology, on-site solar heat reuse, energy efficient DC design. Navi Mumbai, by the way, is already pioneering treated water for cooling. This model, as we all believe, must scale. So by fiscal year 2027, the sector could actually generate 50,000 crore rupees in economic activity. By 2032, India could actually become one of the world's top compute destinations. Data centers are now actually as strategic as semiconductors, batteries, or energy. Control the compute, we've said this again and again, control the future. OpenAI has now actually signed $1.4 trillion worth of compute commitments, the most aggressive AI infrastructure plan ever attempted. Now, Meta has joined the front line, announcing a $600 billion investment in AI data centers and United States infrastructure over the next 3 years. Mark Zuckerberg told President Trump that Meta is, well, front-loading capacity, end quote, to prepare for superintelligence level systems with new data centers in Louisiana and Texas, marking its biggest global expansion yet. At the same time, China's Moonshot AI has unveiled Kimi K2 Thinking, which we talked about only a few days back on front page. A trillion parameter open model that beats GPT-5 in reasoning benchmarks, running at a fraction of the cost. So meanwhile, Google's project Suncatcher is also taking compute literally off planet, designing space-based data centers powered by continuous solar energy, while others explore small modular nuclear reactors to power AI on Earth. So with all of this, it's quite clear. The race for compute has gone cosmic. And now, India definitely wants in. And of course, joining us today to deep dive into this discussion for the first time, well, on front page is Thomas George, President, Cyber Media Group and CMR, industry veteran, and one of India's sharpest voices on ICT, market intelligence, and technology strategy. Also with us is Ramesh Pudukode, a technologist with 37 years of global IT experience and a very rare blend of technical and financial insight. Joining us as an analyst once again on front page, and we are very happy to have them both with us. So a big warm welcome, Thomas and Ramesh. As always, we are super excited to have you with us today. How are you gentlemen doing?
Likewise,
Pretty
thank
good.
you. Thank you
Sudeep.
for
Thank you very much.
Excellent.
thank you for the
All right.
invitation to front page.
As always, it's a pleasure to have you both with us. And of course, we are going to be, well, picking your brain on this entire aspect. And the first thing that actually comes to mind is this, gentlemen. Honestly, how much is enough? Let me give you some figures and a little bit of a narrative before I dive into the questions. India now is one of the fastest growing data center markets in Asia, as I had just talked about. Reliance has announced a $15 billion AI campus in Jamnagar. Google is another $15 billion in Vizag. And TCS is adding its own $7 billion facility. So if all actually come online, gentlemen, India could host over 2 gigawatts of AI-ready capacity, comparable to the early United States hyperscale footprint. So this is the context. I just thought I will set it for you, gentlemen. But the real question is this: do we really need this much compute in a country still balancing basic infrastructure and power reliability? Something which is at the top of our minds, Thomas and Ramesh.
Okay, you want
Yeah.
me to go ahead?
I would
sorry.
like Ramesh, if you could please start the conversation, and Thomas, then I would like for you to probably join in.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sudhi, and thank you, Thomas. Absolutely. If the question is, do India need to be in this data center race? Absolutely, because we are consuming 20% of the data. So we need to have data localization, sovereignty, control on data because it has other implications. Therefore, my uh, view is we need to, this $37 billion investment is welcome, and probably we need to get even more. And we need to find efficient ways of managing water, as you said, treated water in Navi Mumbai or liquid cooling or something like that to overcome this, and also power using solar and connecting grid from Rajasthan or Gujarat solar farms to the national grid and using that to power our AI
Okay.
data centers.
Okay.
That's what I
So,
think. Yeah.
okay. So, Thomas, as per
Yeah,
Ramesh, it's a welcome initiative. It's a welcome move forward. But the question still remains: too much
absolutely.
or how
Absolutely.
much?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for having me over. And my view is similar to what Ramesh sir said just now. Yes, it is required, but we need to be careful about how the future adoption is taking place. Yes, we know there is a good headroom for us, and there is a capacity required. Money. The third one is what kind of a power uh, supply we have, and the policies and the guardrails around it. These are the few criterias or parameters we need to really look at it. Uh, at times, the ambitions can be very a kind of a bhag. It's a big, hairy, audacious goals altogether, like what OpenAI is talking about, 1.4 trillion. Now,
Yep.
a company which has an operational revenue of around 20 billion is talking about seven times of its I mean, it's a huge commitment what they are making, right? Which means that they have seen a demand coming in. From an India's context, yes, of course, in India, if you look at it, the AI today data center or the AI growth itself is around close to 28%, on a CAGR of 28%, which means that we're going to be around somewhere close to around by 2030 around 4.2 billion US dollar kind of market. So which talks about the kind of a growth in the AI usage, the kind of compute capacity required and the power required altogether. So I say yes, there is a requirement, but as we go, we need to be very careful on the adoption trends, the money and the capital flowing in, enabling it, the power requirements for the same, and at the same time having the right policy and guardrails around it.
Fair enough. So I guess both of you gentlemen agree with the fact, as Ramesh had mentioned, 20% globally is our consumption in India. Of course, a very poignant point made by Ramesh and both Thomas is the fact that we need to use alternative sources as we look at this kind of data centers so that there is a balance as far as the basic infrastructure and requirement of power is needed. All right, Ramesh, I'll come to you. Are we building ahead of actual demand or building the foundation for the next digital decade?
I think right now a lot of our data is located outside the country too, and we need to bring that data back because then we will have control on the data. Therefore, I don't think we are building ahead, and even if we are building ahead, there's nothing wrong because, as Thomas mentioned, OpenAI with a $20 billion revenue is planning 1.4 trillion. That is 70 times.
Yep.
70 times of what their revenue is. They're going to be 120 billion revenue by 2027 and things like that. For we need to project in the same way. We have a young population. We are data hungry. We have applications going to come. Now all these OpenAI and all are giving free subscription to our
Yes.
youngsters. So imagine all this data. Therefore, I think we are no. In my view, we are justified in going ahead at this speed. My only concern is we need to use less water. We need to find ways of treated water or liquid cooling or something like that. That is my main concern, and also the power. I think we have capital coming. I don't, capital may not be an issue as long as we don't go into too much debt. Our states or our companies should not go into too much into debt financing. They should go more for equity financing, and power and water we should plan for it. And I think then we are on a sustainable path, and we need to be on this path.
Fair enough. So, alternative sources, as Ramesh has reiterated. Thomas, what metrics, megawatt utilization, AI workload mix, or revenue per megawatt should decide when to pause or accelerate, Thomas?
Well, it's too early to really talk about those metrics and measure, as as we are just building the use cases and we are seeing the outputs coming through. But one thing for sure, that we have to be a little cautious as well. We have seen in the past that though they were on the smaller scale, right? They have come, they invested, they had a tier four data centers, they had huge spend splash all across. They were painting the town in red, saying that all kind of data center services are available. Of course, the times have changed. Today, the consumption is pretty different. And with the future in view, if you look at the kind of driverless vehicles, the augmented reality, the generative AI part of it, and the advancement in the medical field, if we look at it, we are for sure gunning for a more AI and compute hungry digital infrastructure in the country. And as Ramesh mentioned about, you just look at the UPI transactions, what we do in India, the kind of the population and demographic dividend what we have in the country, and their usage, and look at the way they are connected all together. We have not even talked about 5G, how 5G is going to come to play. And we are already witnessing about the streaming, the gaming enthusiast, the gamers.
Thomas, also just to add 6G as well.
6G as well, yeah, too early. But yeah, in coming days, 6G as well. Look at Wi-Fi 6, 7, 8, whatever likely to come, right? All these is going to really stretch the compute demand. And I think, yes, there is, but at the same time, we need to measure a caution in terms of what kind of, we are having a massive build-up scale, but what is the utilization? Is the data center really being utilized more than 50%? Are people going to talk about it transparently? Then we know that, okay, this is the kind of threshold we are attaining, and do we really need it? Because data center and digital infrastructure is something which is needed before. It's like laying a road and a highway before you can take it off on 120 kilometers per hour on that.
Fair enough. Valid point. Ramesh, actually, that brings me to this one. Very quickly, I would like you to maybe answer what Thomas just spoke about, which is that he said that Tulip and Enron, for example, were cautionary tales. What do you feel could be something that we needs to be done? Because immediately then the question comes up in one's head is the bubble, the big AI bubble. Of course, I don't want to get too deep into that because we have so much more to cover. But very quickly, I would like you to rebut as far as Thomas's point is concerned. He's made a point regarding having guardrails or not being another cautionary tale. What would you like to say?
Yeah. Thomas had a point over there. I'm not denying it. There could be a bubble, but what I've been reading about is this is not like a .com or a tulip like in 1600s thing. There is backup. There is a data here that there is a data saying we have 1.45 billion people, and we are using data. We need the data centers anyway, even if we may have added some extra capacity. We will be using it over a period of time with 6G, 5G, and all those things coming. Therefore, I do not think at this stage that we are in that bubble territory, because right now we are 1.5 gigawatts. We need this minimum 6, 7 gigawatts to be at scale. Therefore, we are not at that stage yet. I feel that it's a bubble territory, like the tulips, or even what happened with Enron or something like that. I think there is we are consuming a lot of data, compute, and all that stuff. And you can see this. All these companies are giving free subscriptions, and people are going to use it. Our colleges, universities, everything. Therefore, that's what I feel. Or it may not
Okay.
be a bubble. I don't know. It doesn't look like a bubble right now.
Okay. And as Ramesh put it across, Thomas, data
I
doesn't
have a
lie,
point here.
because he definitely talked about data driving these decisions, which of course brings me to this thought, Thomas. Strategically, how much sovereign compute does India actually need to stay self-reliant without over-investing? Probably something to what you were mentioning in terms of building of the highway.
Yeah, so if you mentioned already that if you look at it today, that our supply is around 162 m watt, right? And if you look at it today, we are consuming around 212 part of it. The absorption capacity is around 212. So I think somewhere roughly we are kindly slightly over and little tight, not much. But as Ramesh said, yes, we need to build it up. But what I'm trying to say again is that uh, can we have a visibility? Can we go on a more phased out manner? All the
Okay.
buildups needs to be in a phased out manner. You can have a phase one, phase two, phase three, and we are talking about all these data center to be built, operational, and effective in the next 3 to 4 years, right? So, do we have uh, a milestone midway to really look at it? What is the kind of average utilization we are having? Do we have a 70% plus average utilization or not? Do we have enough mandated 24 bar 7 clean power, whether it is it's a sunshine or a rain kind of an atmosphere or a weather?
Right.
Are we enforcing enough efficiency in terms of our standards when it comes to PUE targets, like at least less than 1.2 for all the new AI data, right? Which ensures that there is a minimum energy waste because from the cooling or the overheating systems altogether. As I mentioned earlier, also, do we have enough transparency? There are these data centers or digital infrastructure owners or service providers are going to be made to be make disclosures or public disclosures on their operational efficiency and the metrics,
Sure.
and those kind of queries will bring in more accountability, and of course that will incentivize innovation altogether. And then we can look at it how to really stretch it for the phase two or a phase three, rather than making headlines news about MOUs and agreements, because everyone likes investment, and today India is the right destination for that.
Fair enough. Thomas, well put. I think at the end of the day, you're talking about excitement, but caution as well, and a more structured approach. Energy shocks and AI's power hunger is what I would like to talk about next, gentlemen. Several global energy economists have actually warned that AI's energy appetite could become catastrophic. So, for instance, in Athens, Georgia, electricity bills have risen 60% since 2023 because of AI-driven load. India's expansion from 1.2 gigawatts to 5 gigawatts by 2030. And now the projection is 9 gigawatts by 2032. That could actually add 40 to 50 terawatt hour of new demand annually. Wow. That's roughly equivalent to the consumption of an entire mid-sized state. And now, as the United States and China actually move compute into space and experiment with modular nuclear reactors, as I had mentioned earlier, and closed loop cooling, India faces a new dilemma, gentlemen. Can its grid handle the AI century without collapsing under its own ambition? Which brings me to you, Ramesh. Are we underestimating the energy inflation risk of the AI boom?
Yes, we need to learn from what's happened in US. As you said, in Athens, there was a power spike, the power cost
Yeah.
spike. So, but now what I read is now the state governments and all are telling in the US to that they will, the hyperscalers would have to bear the cost. Therefore, they are co-locating the power plants next to the data centers. They are having solar farms and nuclear reactors close to the data centers. That's what Google, Meta, everyone is doing. Therefore, we need to follow that strategy so that the Aam Aadmi, the common man, doesn't bear the cost of these power. Absolutely, I agree with you on that. We have to be careful about that. And as Thomas mentioned, go on a phased approach and make sure we could use. This is my feeling is we could use like the arid areas of Rajasthan and Gujarat to have massive solar farms and then connect them to the national grid and keep the data centers around in areas of that and liquid cooling and things like that so that the power costs are not borne by the common person.
Okay.
That's what I feel. Otherwise, yeah, this is 60% like in Athens is not sustainable for
Which
the
is,
common
yes, I
person.
mean, yeah, it'll collapse like I mentioned.
Okay.
Thomas, should
Yes.
India actually mandate 24/7 clean energy PPAs, treated water cooling as Ramesh has been talking about, and efficient per query disclosures? Or will that slow innovation? That constant question.
So I would say that yes, that's a requirement. But given the circumstances, and to be brutally honest, if you're saying today, are we in today's context? I'm slightly doubtful.
Okay?
But as we go forward, I know that the policymakers, governments, and all the players are keen to have this going up, and I'm sure if all the stakeholders comes together, we will be in a position to mitigate this. Having said that, we need to be of mindful that yes, look at the kind of power dependency we have. How many states today we have which are power surplus? Very limited, right?
Very limited.
So we need to really look at those ground realities as well. Um, Having talked about the alternate energies, they are the way forward without putting the dependency on the grid. If there are alternate energy which is going to be developed near the data centers, but that also comes with a lot of risk around that. Where is the data center located, and can we have various other alternate power plants closer to that? Will that affect the civilian lives? Not. There are too many questions over there as well. So we need to look into
Thomas,
all
what
aspects.
you're saying, I just want to know, fair, I agree with you as far as that is concerned, that there needs to be a very incisive thought and a very measured way of moving forward, as you have been talking about, a very balanced approach. But till now, we've been talking about power, we've been talking about the resources, etc. How about, Thomas, we look at maybe breakthroughs in AI model design, or maybe like chip efficiency, which might be needed to make computation 10 times more energy efficient before this crisis scales. I'm just adding to what you're saying. How about looking at it from
Absolutely.
that lens?
Absolutely, it's happening. There are advancements happening with many of the hyperscalers developing their own ASIC chips altogether, which requires lesser compute power, and it's not heating up as it will be in the traditional way altogether. So there are advancements happening on the chip designing part of it also. And there could be a lot more disruption and innovation coming over there as well.
Which will help, obviously, Ramesh, which actually brings me to this thought, as Thomas mentioned, a balanced approach, with probably a lot of breakthroughs in the design itself. What about this aspect, Ramesh, which is next compute zone is literally in orbit? Should India invest, given the Suncatcher project, as I had mentioned regarding Google? Should India actually invest in its own space grade AI infrastructure then? Aam Aadmi doesn't get
I
affected.
Yes, I have been. I saw that news. Google and Amazon is also yesterday. Jeff Bezos in a summit said that they are also going to put data centers,
Hmm.
but it may take time, and it may not be. We have to have our own companies to do it. Therefore, let us be realistic. We do not
Sure.
have that massive space companies right now to put all that and well, I think we may have to. We don't have to be a leader there because we can learn from what's happening. What is it? Is it feasible? Is it practical? And things like that from their experience. Therefore, that's what I feel at this. I think that may be a little ahead right now
Okay.
from where we are. But my other feeling is I was reading like Google has been subsidized in APY Visakhapatnam. I think probably we shouldn't. This is of course I'm not a political, but I think we should not be. Probably these are all very wealthy companies and need not be subsidized. And I don't know what's this technology of like we have next to the ocean. For is it possible to desalination plants where we have data centers like in Visakhapatnam and Chennai and Mumbai and all where can we do use desalinated water to cool it if that is one aspect we can see, and they should bore the cost. Like I'm talking about like the hyperscalers, and as Thomas mentioned, also the newer chips from these hyperscalers for inference is becoming less power consuming chips. So that may add in helping out the reduction in power requirements. So those type of things will help.
Okay.
Liquid cooling, trying to see whether desalination water can be used for thing, and the newer chips might help in reduction of the power and the cooling requirements.
All right. So, well,
But
basically,
the
water
space
stress in
thing,
India's.
yeah, no, I'm sorry. The space, I think, is probably a little ahead of from the current where we are right now.
It's a moonshot, literally.
Moonshot. Yeah.
Okay.
That's
All right. Water stress in India's cooling challenge. Ramesh, you of course mentioned the details and the figures, so I'll get directly to the questions. Let's move to the question as far as Thomas and Ramesh are concerned, which is this: are we underestimating the water stress risk of India's data center boom? Ramesh, that's the point that I would like for you to first address, and then I'll go to Thomas.
Maybe if we plan well, Sudhir, maybe we may not. The area where, as I said, Visakhapatnam, maybe if we don't use underground water and use some techniques and try out some new methodologies, maybe we may not have water shortage. I don't know about like in Arunachal Pradesh, can we put data centers over there? Very lot of water, Assam and all that stuff, but there is an earthquake. I don't know what is the implication on earthquake over there for or flooding from the rivers. Therefore, but that also we could use as as one area, and also as you mentioned, the cooler. Okay, on the cooler, that's on the power side on in a cooler cities and things like that. But water is yes, exactly. But data center in my view, like in Bangalore type of city, may not be a good idea where because it has got a there's no ocean and it's water water yeah paucity of water in cities like that. For that's what I feel. Therefore, if we
Okay.
plan if we do proper planning, we may not face the water issue.
Okay. Thomas, should India
yeah.
mandate treated water cooling, as Ramesh has mentioned a few times, and zero water systems before approving new capacity? See, because What I've been able to understand till now, Thomas, is the fact that, as you've mentioned, and very rightly so, nobody feels the pinch when the money is coming in terms of huge investments, as far as them creating jobs, the government feeling happier about those kind of investments coming in, sovereignty, all those factors. But the fact is that everything needs to find a balanced approach, so that with the money coming in is great, the floodgates, no pun intended, have opened up. We need to deal with that, and we deal with it in a proper, structured manner.
Right. So if you look at it, zero liquid discharge system, which is called ZLD, that can cut the potable water use by say 80% or so, right? Treated sewage water. These could be the methods, and they should not be optional. I think it should be part of the policy and mandatory. And as you rightly said, and only licensing will be given based on that. So that will really ensure that zero water cooling is possible. And but at the same time, having said that, can we also do right incentivizing them? So because we are talking about altogether a sustainable energy and a water policy altogether, right? We need to really look at it now. For example, whether today, if you do see a DC boom or not in Chennai, which hosts around close to 18 to 90% of the data centers of the country, right? And today, Chennai water demand is completely outstripping the supply, 2:1. So what do we do for a city like Chennai, which has the best connectivity, seaport, everything, to have ideal condition to have a data center there, right? So it's essential, and it needs to be a part of the policy, and that's what I said. There should be the right guardrails around while we are granting licenses and expansion plans.
Very, very, very important point made by Thomas there. Circular financing and ROI. That's the next point, gentlemen, which we would like to attack. Who's really actually paying for the boom? So globally, AI infrastructure runs on looped capital flows, as we all know. Chip makers investing in data centers that buy their chips back. NVIDIA holds stakes in its biggest customers. Hyperscalers lease compute to labs they could actually co-fund. India's version, well, looks similar. Reliance, Adani and Airtel are building AI parks financed by the same global suppliers. So the first question comes to you, Thomas. How do we separate genuine market demand from reflexive circular investment, where probably, as Ramesh mentioned, the Aam Aadmi should not actually take the hit?
So we've already talked about that. What is the utilization happening? I mean, if someone is having a data center, having the capacity, what is their utilization at the FID, or within greater than or equivalent to 10 years? What is the PPA and the lease terms going to be? Right? We need to look at the RPO and the water positive plans, like what the El Paso Meta is trying to target and do from a water restoration point of view. So how is the water restoration is going to be greater than the consumption altogether? That's what the entire El Paso model is all about. So if we are looking and getting the headway into those direction, then we can somewhere separate the genuine demand vis-a-vis the talks of the circular capital or circular financing altogether.
So accountability is finally what is at the center of that thought. Ramesh, are we building productive digital assets or inflating a compute bubble that depends on endless new capital? You don't believe in the fact that it's a bubble?
I have been reading the experts' opinion, and they keep saying it is not a bubble, like Jensen Wang and Bezos and Gates and all that. For I'm assuming because they're saying it's not like a .com bubble because in .com there was these websites that were thrown up. They didn't have any revenue. They didn't have any product. They didn't have any technology. They just got the investors' capital and just it was all shell game at that time. Um, this one is all massive companies like Nvidia in 2021 was 11 billion revenue, and by 2027 they are expecting 208. 2026 they are expecting 285 billion revenue. Therefore, there is substance in all these companies. They have real products. They have real technologies. Same thing with Meta, with OpenAI, and with all these companies. Therefore, the chances there could be still be a bubble. I'm not saying no, but it won't be. They can withstand because they have the financial wherewithal. So all these companies are for the Amazons, the Googles, the Microsofts, the Metas, and all that. So I see less concerned, even though the stock price might come down by 20%, but their financial balance sheets will still be good. That means their revenues, their profit margins, their EBITDA, all those things will be pretty good. Maybe their stock price, because which got hyped up, like in case of on Nvidia, which is like $5.2 trillion, it may come down back to 3.5 trillion. I mean, I'm just assuming like a 4 or something like that. So more from the stock price angle, there may be a bubble, but they're from the financial and technological angle. I don't think they will, because they will still continue because so much computation is needed across the world.
Fair. All right. So, Thomas, I'll come to you. And I'll also want to just maybe add this to the question. What Ramesh just mentioned, he talked about the .com era, the bubble that got created there. I think one of the points which was very, very nuanced was the fact that a lot of the investments which were being made at that time were debt. Today, a lot of these big companies are actually pouring in their own money. So it's not debt funded, which actually makes it a little more, how should I put it, positive. The fact that it is not a bubble, which actually brings me also to this point. I want to link it to this, which is what policy or governance framework can ensure India's data center boom remains sustainable and accountable.
So I would go back to the same what we discussed. How do we mandate these? How do we differentiate between the boom and the actual utilization or the usage? So mandatory WE disclosures, which is water usage and effectiveness, like PUE for energy and various others. Incentives for the liquid cooling and tax credits for zero water system, cluster level water budgeting, heat reuse mandates. So these are the kind of which you have also touched upon. Will make it more will make it more sustainable. And I think yes, of course there is demand, but at least we need to be careful as well, because every time what we have seen, 2000.com boom, 2007-8 we have great financial crisis, then we had slowdown, then we have COVID. So the frequency of something which is hitting us southward is happening quite often, and the period and the time period and the gap is reducing. So I just hope that we are practical enough. At the same time, we are taking a phased out, measured, and cautious approach rather than getting over ambitious and running after big, hairy, audacious goals.
All right. So, well, both of you gentlemen, I'll want to bring your thoughts, draw your attention to this, which is looking forward. 2030 compute vision. Question I want to ask you both is boom or bane? By 2030, AI could actually consume 10 to 12% of global electricity. If India executes this well, it could actually unlock breakthroughs in drug discovery, space technology, and climate modeling. Big things, But if not, Thomas and Ramesh, we risk stranded assets, water scarcity, as we have discussed to length, and environmental backlash. The first one comes to you, Ramesh. What would true success look like for India's AI infrastructure by 2030? Energy positive clusters, exportable compute, and circular water systems. That's a question mark.
For
What early
me,
warning signs? Falling utilization, unsold capacity, or policy pushback would signal that the boom is tipping toward a bane. Ramesh.
so the yeah, so the I am positive and optimistic that it may not be a bane. Um, it could be, if not a boom, at least I think it will be a sustainable growth.
Okay.
And the other thing is, even if we don't export data, I don't think we can assume that we will become an exporter of data for the world, because no country would. Every country wants the data to be, in house within the borders, and therefore I see very little possibility. Maybe some small countries, in our neighborhood. But other than that, okay, I don't see any big possibility of export data. The For our own needs, I think if we plan our electricity and the grid, and uh, make sure that we use reusable energy with proper co-location, I think we may be able to ride this growth. I feel I am positive on that overall. And on water also, as Thomas mentioned, there should be not be a man. I mean, it should be mandated. It should not be an option. You cannot use well water. You cannot use under the
Sure.
pump water from agriculture, from the farmers. We have to make sure, because these are all massive wealthy companies. No need to give any subsidy for them, but mandate that they have to have proper recycling and treatable or desalinated or some other source of water. And I think if we do that, we may be on a sustainable path and reach our 2030 goals of 7.9 trillion, whatever the gigawatt capacity. Okay, I think
Finally.
it is possible. Finally, I think we may be on the sustainable path. I feel, and I think our government is also now. They have learned. I mean, they are following. They know what's happening. Yeah.
Okay. Thomas, finally, in a world where compute is the new currency, as we've established, will India's strategy make it self reliant or energy poor?
Of course, we are ambitious and we will be completely self-reliant. I would like to see 2030 with an end state of around 4 to 5 gigawatt of IT nationwide, mid-range kind of usage, as discussed by the researchers across the industry, with more than 80% of kind of new hall utilization on 24 by 7 RE altogether, right? And with the POE of less than 1.2, right? And water utility efficiency level of less than zero point 0.2 liter per kilowatt hours. So that is what WISAC plan is all talking about. And if we are able to achieve that with the high density AI clusters all across, greater than 40 to 60% kilowatt per rack, if we are looking at, say, direct to chip kind of immersion cooling, direct to chip kind of adoption, immersion cooling, and an evaporative cooling inefficient coastal kind of summers, if we have, I think we are for kind of once in a generation kind of a chance to leapfrog the data center landscape altogether for the country.
Fabulous. Well, I would like to thank both of you, gentlemen, Ramesh and Thomas, for this very invigorating conversation, for all the figures, the numbers, the thought processes, and most importantly, actually, the positivity and the energy that you have brought to front page today, with the fact that we have a great opportunity. It's just that how we embrace it, how we balance it, how we make sure that there are certain mandates which are needed to make sure that the progress we make is an example that we can set for the world in times to come. Thank you so much both for being on front page.
Thank you,
Thank
Sudhi,
you.
and thank you, Aim, for
Thank you
having us on
all.
the front page.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Wishing you all the best, both of you gentlemen. Of course, this is our final take post the discussion with Ramesh and Thomas. India's data center surge is definitely and clearly about digital sovereignty. It's also about secure data. It's also about AI native growth. And it's about $1 trillion digital economy. The challenge ahead: grow without draining the water table, scale without stressing the grid. And as both gentlemen said, build without breaking environmental balance. Now, the question for you to think about is this: will India become the world's next data infrastructure powerhouse, or will the water energy bottleneck rewrite the script? Please do let us know what you think in the comments below. We'll take a short little break on front page, but when we are back with Andhra Pradesh roaring.